Flamma's box opens to reveal a well-packed pedal with accessories. As we get inside, there are two distinct areas, pedal on the right and accessories on the left. Atop the FF20 is a lengthy USB cable, which also doubles to protect the screen and strengthen the box, helping to avoid undue pressure on the knobs while in transit. The left side of the box pulls away, revealing a smaller box with a region-appropriate power supply. The device itself is packed in a light cloth pouch. Kudos to Flamma for not using plastic bags in any of this packaging. Beneath this pedal, we find a Flamma decal, a warranty card, and a quick start guide with QR codes to access a more detailed user manual. Controls for the FF20 include two knobs, one for looper playback volume, and a push-button encoder wheel. Below this are three smaller push buttons for accessing auto-record features, tap tempo, and drum pattern control. Rounding out this design are two soft switch pedals which click audibly to assure functionality. As we turn to the back of the unit, we find a power supply connection, dual quarter-inch inputs, dual quarter-inch outputs, a 3.5mm headphone jack, and a USB-C port. Foot switch use is pretty straightforward, with a couple of options for customizing how they function. Functions for recording, playback, and overdub are assigned to the left foot switch. The right side foot switch is used for pausing, stopping, clearing, and other necessary functions, all of which makes creating and working on tracks more intuitive. Selecting a loop location, as expected, is done by turning the menu encoder wheel, and Flamma has taken this a step further. Literally. Pressing both switches together for a second then allows you to use the pedals to step through all of its memory locations, making this pedal more useful in a live performance. One solid feature of the FF20 is that it automatically saves your loop. The FF20 does have a manual save feature as well, with three important benefits. First, it consolidates all the layers into a unified memory location, freeing up usable time available on the FF20. Second, it preserves the phrase and keeps it from accidental deletion when you hold down the right foot switch, allowing only the most current auto-saved layers to be deleted. Third, it makes the phrase available for backup using the management app. The main menu of the FF20 features your standard options for customizing use. These include how you want the record, playback, and layer to cycle, stop mode with a one-shot setting that is ideal for working on multiple layers and their timing, input setting for mixed mono or stereo recording, a drum out with mixed or split options. The latter is good to have when you want to send the drums to their own discrete output, and factory reset to nuke all user recordings and settings, which the previous buyer of this pedal did not do before they returned it to Amazon. Holding down the small button under the screen with the snare icon opens our drum menu. Here we have 11 genres with 20 patterns each to choose from. While in this menu, we can press the right foot switch to start and stop drums without having to use the looper. It is worth noting that while in the drum menu, the right switch will not be available to tap in a tempo. Instead, we will have to use the small center button labeled tap or select BPM using the encoder. The third menu option is where you set the drum level from 0 to 100. While the default is 10, I found myself often setting the drum level at 20. Holding down the small center button labeled tap below the screen opens the BPM meter. While in this screen, BPM can be adjusted by repeatedly tapping the center button or using the encoder wheel. The screen also indicates when the BPM is higher, lower, or set to the original tempo. Knowing this is useful when time stretching a loop if it has been slowed down or sped up. Having the auto record assigned to its own control allows you to easily set up loop capture without drums or having dead space at the beginning of your loop. Holding down this button for a few seconds reveals the threshold control. This is a helpful feature to prevent a false start should the incoming signal have a higher than normal noise floor. As with the majority of phrase loop pedals available, Flamma's FF20 has a dedicated management app available for download. The app gives you the ability to import loops up to 30 minutes in length while auto-converting any file you wish to add to the device from a variety of the most popular formats. Importing a 3-minute long file was accomplished in roughly 15 seconds. Exporting loops for safekeeping or use in a DAW is also possible with a couple of issues. First, you need to manually save any loop you want to export from your device. Second, no drum audio will be captured or exported. Third, the exported files will not include any metadata useful to the loop pedal itself. When exporting and then re-importing a loop using the FF20, neither the original drum pattern nor the correct BPM were assigned, making it impossible to time align the loop with the original settings. Moving on, the app gives you two more important capabilities: updating the firmware of the FF20 and performing a factory reset. The firmware update did not affect any loops recorded or imported and took about 4 minutes to complete. Here is what I found good and not so great about the Flamma FF20. A massive 300 minutes of storage time, and individual loops can be up to 30 minutes long. A wide variety of drum genres, rhythms, and time signatures. Easy to understand full color display. Dedicated headphone out. Dual foot switches, foot switchable location change, ability to import nearly any type of audio file, easy to navigate menus, and the pedal auto saves your loop. On the downside, the FF20 is encased in a plastic housing. You cannot move nor duplicate any loops recorded into the device. No metadata for BPM is encoded into files exported. Incorrect tempo is assigned to imported files. When using the drums, you only get a count in during the initial recording and not when you stop and restart for additional layers. Device resolution is only 441K in 24-bit in a world where 48K 32-bit files are now current minimum spec standard. Last, the FF20 has no MIDI capability. The Flamma FF20 is a very budget-friendly looper. Considering it is one of the few in this price range to be dual foot switch and have a headphone out, make this an exceptional value for hobbyists and those who do not need sophisticated advanced MIDI control. However, there are 3 major issues I encountered while working on this review. First, as I mentioned earlier, loops saved to the downloadable app do not retain any information relative to the drum pattern or the tempo it was recorded to on the looper. I tried multiple times to import and export the audio heard at this video's open. Using the built-in drum pattern set to 110 beats per minute, the looper would still import the file back into its own system at 80 beats per minute, and you cannot change the drum tempo without altering the speed of your imported loop. Second, the looper does not play well with bass guitar or any instrument with a louder input. At first I thought this was an issue with a battery, my bass preamp, a cable, or possibly even my audio and camera system. The right note at the wrong time would introduce a popping noise into the captured loop. After quite a few takes, I was finally able to get a good loop capture using an outboard optical compressor and still have that loop at a decent volume level. Third and final, on any loop recorded longer than 2 minutes, it is impossible to add a third layer and have the FF20 stay on time. At first I thought this was due to the previous layers only being auto-saved, but even after a manual save, the previously recorded track would start to get ahead of the built-in drum pattern. After resetting, checking for a firmware update, and recording again, the issue persisted, making it impossible to create a showcase intro using this pedal. Until Flamma can resolve this issue, the FF20 is a hard fail. I do feel that Flamma is on the right track with all the FF20 has to offer, and I look forward to seeing if they can make the necessary firmware updates, allowing this looper and drum unit to achieve its full potential.